Okay, so Great Guitar Build-Off 2022 appears to be go. Ben dropped the announcement video yesterday, and obviously there's quite a lot to pick through in that. There's a lot of changes from last year's competition, and personally I don't think they're all for the good, but I can understand why they had to be made. Organising something like Great Guitar Build-Off must be an absolute nightmare. I think it's become bigger and way more complicated than anyone could ever have imagined in 2020 when this all kicked off. And I don't really envy Ben and company the task of getting it all sorted out. I was a little bit surprised at how much the entry cost had gone up. £50 is quite a lot of money to enter a competition. Personally, I'm in an incredibly lucky situation whereby the tiny amount of money that I make off YouTube will go a long way to offsetting at least the entry cost. But for a lot of people, £50 might be a barrier to entry, especially when you consider that that's just the start of the outlay for a competition like this. Making a nice guitar isn't a cheap game, especially if you want to use top quality materials and good hardware. So when you combine all of that with the entry fee, off the top of my head I would say that that's going to put the entry cost at around about £300 to £400, which is quite a lot of money these days. I'm not sure I like the idea of having to pay to vote, but I totally understand why they've done it. I think last year it became a popularity competition between people who had big social media followings, and I have to say that some of the guitars that did quite well in the competition would probably end up as those guitars that hang around on a guitar shop wall for a very long time because they kind of look okay but they're not very nice to play. And I think there probably was issues with people finding multiple avenues to vote for their own guitars or to get other people to vote for them multiple times. So something had to change. I'm not sure this is the optimal solution, but I haven't got any suggestions at the moment, so I suppose we'll just have to go with it. Ultimately, this competition's grown into something completely unexpected, and I just think it's going to take a few iterations before they get it absolutely spot on. There's pros and cons to the changes. I particularly welcome the increased number of categories. I think that's a great improvement. I think the addition of a professional category will level the playing field to a greater extent because it will take all of those people with the dream workshops that we all would love to have out of the mix for the mere mortals like myself and the vast majority of people who take part. And as I said earlier, I think the voting system had to be changed to just limit how creative people were with the rules, shall we say. As for cons, I think the cost will be a barrier for a lot of people now, and personally I don't agree with charging people to vote. So where does this leave me with the Great Guitar Build-Off 2022? Well, I've been having doubts for quite a long time about entering, mainly because last year I really struggled to fit it all in. I had other builds to do. I have repair and setup work coming in all the time. I have a busy work life. This is supposed to be my hobby and the time I spend down the shed I'm supposed to be enjoying. So I wasn't really looking forward to making the next few months really pressurised by adding another guitar build into the mix. However, having watched the video last night, I think the timeline is looking a lot better than I thought it was. So from my understanding of what Ben said last night, I'll effectively have from now until October to build the guitar and to make the videos, which I think is fine. I also want to support the competition, or rather, I want to support the build-off. I entered Great Guitar Build-Off 2020 as a very last minute thing. I had a small YouTube channel at that point, but I wasn't making guitars on it. However, I'd always intended it to be a guitar building channel. I was just kind of working my way up to it. At the point that I heard about the Great Guitar Build-Off, I had an SG Junior build in planning, and I just thought, why not put the two together? And it did absolutely amazing things for my channel. It opened me out to a new audience, and I'm going to be eternally grateful that that competition was there for me to take part in. So for that reason alone, I want to support the Great Guitar Build-Off 2022. And the best way I can do that is by being a part of it. But I'm going to set a few personal limits around that, mainly about my attitude towards it. And the main part of that is that I'm not actually going to view it as a competition. I'm just going to view this as my opportunity to make a guitar that I wouldn't normally make, to share the experience with as many of you as possible, and to do it within the context of the Great Guitar Build-Off. I have absolutely zero interest in winning, and to that point I am not going to, at any point of the process between now and October, ask anyone to vote for me. If you want to vote for me, that's up to you, but what I would actually encourage you to do is to spend that money voting for someone else in the competition. If you're enjoying what I'm doing on the build, just like the video, leave me a comment, join in with the conversation. That would make me more happy. So what have I got planned? Well, plan's a strong word, I suppose. But what I will be doing is covering the build in great depth in the videos. I'll be discussing all the details of the build, techniques I use, etc. I'll be building something that will be unusual for me. A lot of my builds are based around classic designs. I will be building something more custom. but I haven't got a huge amount of detail on that at the moment. The last two builds I made for the competition were made purely with materials that I had lying about in the shop. I'm going to go about that differently this time, and I will be searching out some nice materials to make this build from. But there are some things that it won't have. It won't have 24 strings, we'll have unfanned frets, probably use some unspalted maple, and it won't be bejazzled in any way, shape or form. But it will be a solidly built, aesthetically pleasing guitar that will play well and sound great. What I like to think of as the important things. I'll leave the gimmicks to those that enjoy that sort of thing. And why not? So I hope you'll be with me in April. We can get the ball rolling and I can share my great guitar build off 2022 adventure with you. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.